We are holding the Open Region International Seminar. The topic of our discussion today is open data. My name is Ryabushko. I'm Chief Information Officer of Office of the Affairs of the Ulyanovsk region. It's my honor to start this international seminar. First, let me ask you to check your mobile phones. Secondly, I would say that the webcast is available of the official website of the Ulyanovsk Government, ulgov.ru. Furthermore, we have a strong Wi-Fi connection, so we would be grateful if you tweet using hashtag OpenUlsk and open data. You can also leave the hall when it is necessary for you, and if you feel bad, for example, you can ask for help. We will provide you with medical service. The coffee break is on the second floor. So please check your time while delivering your speech and while asking and answering questions. But we expect you not to ask any questions during the seminar. We expect you to ask them during coffee breaks or during lunch or on the last coffee break for today. We would be thankful if you could fill in the question list with the feedback about the quality of organizing of our event. And so after filling in, please return it back directly to me. So, first of all, I would like to say that the Ulyanovsk region hosts the international seminar Open Region. The seminar is scheduled today on the 10th of April 2013. The event is initiated by the government and the government of the Ulyanovsk region with the support of the World Bank. During the seminar, the leading experts of the World Bank, international experts from the US, from the UK, from Israel, from Bolivia, and from the Ukraine, will hold a series of workshops and roundtables about the use of open data. Public authorities will discuss examples of best practice at the open data implementation, taking into account the regional specifics. Public authority some trouble with the simultaneous translation, yes. The seminar, are you ready? The seminar will be followed by steps. The seminar will be followed by a step-by-step plan of action of the implementation of open data initiatives at the Ulyanovsk region. The plan is to be prepared by the World Bank experts on the basis of the previous research. Let us recall briefly that the World Bank mission led by the leading consultants, Mr. Andrew Stott and Jeff Kaplan, worked at the Ulyanovsk region in February this year. During the mission in February, Jeff and Andrew Kaplan, Jeff Kaplan and Andrew Stott did their research, which was conducted with the use of the latest developments of the leading experts. At the first stage, the experts analyzed the degrees of openness of the government and data held by the executive authorities of the Ulyanovsk region. At the second stage, the mission of the World Bank conducted a series of interviews with government officials, heads of universities, a number of representatives from the media, from IT, and so on.
Last year, in December, we signed a memo at the International Conference in Moscow for open data in the regions with the World Bank. The main objective of our collaboration is the Open Data Initiative. Open data is the next step for increasing transparency of the authorities after open government. Open data is a mechanism that will allow us to revitalize masses of information published on the official resources. Sergei Morozov, the governor, has put forward the main goal to open data to increase the confidence and trust among the population. We are doing a lot at the moment to open data for the government in education, healthcare, housing, environment, and open budget. Of course, the population is interested how we spend our budget, how efficient it is. The goal of the project is to publish the information in the machine-readable format so that the companies, web studios and developers could develop various applications for the population. This will make the life of people easier, and it will increase the transparency of the processes. We had a series of meetings with IT companies, and from the World Bank's report today we see that business is not ready yet to start developing the applications for the dialogue between government and population. This will be the next step of our collaboration. It is the development of business based on open data that will allow us to have additional revenues in the state budget. So this project will be mutually beneficial for population and for the government. Today at the conference we'll have 4 sessions. Open data, what it is and what are the advantages. Number 2, development of highly efficient initiatives on open data, secret of success. Session number 3, results of the audit of open data in Ulyanovsk Oblast. The full report will be published on the website of Ulyanovsk Oblast government. Dear friends, I would like to express my deep gratitude to all of you for the participation at this seminar. I wish us all a success. Спасибо большое, Светлана Владимировна. Я бы хотел представить господина Хуана Navas-Sabatera, руководителя по устойчивому развитию Международного банка реконструкции и развития. Он представитель не только Российской Федерации, но и представитель по устойчивому развитию и по Европе. Хуан, вам слово. Thank you so much, dear friends and colleagues. My name is Juan Navas-Sabater. As you can guess, I am from Spain. I recently moved from headquarters of the World Bank in Washington to my new position in Moscow, and my new position is head of the sustainable development for all the projects in the Russian Federation, infrastructural, environmental and ICT projects. But today I am here to represent the head of the World Bank, Mikhail Rutkovsky, and it is a great honor to welcome on behalf of him all of you at this seminar on Open Region International Seminar. And it is my special pleasure to welcome our colleagues from other regions. Thank you so much for finding time and opportunity to travel and come to this seminar. As it has already been said, this seminar is the result of close collaboration between a number of departments of the World Bank and the government of Ulyanovsk Oblast. It was also highly supported by a number of international experts, the leading experts in open data. During this seminar, we will present you the results of the Open Data Readiness Assessment in Ulyanovsk Oblast. This work has been conducted by our experts on the basis of standard methodology. You will probably hear about a lot today. This is the standard World Bank methodology for the Open Data Readiness Assessment. And this work was done in Ulyanovsk Oblast within the framework of the agreement the bank and the government of Ulyanovsk Oblast signed. The agreement was signed in October last year. This is not the first time World Bank is working with Ulyanovsk Oblast. Ulyanovsk Oblast is also taking part in other projects of the World Bank. For example, we had a project on business, and Ulyanovsk as a city was ranked number 1 among 30 Russian cities, and there were other World Bank projects such as Innovative Observatory and a project for the real estate for property rights registration. This work that we conducted today and the agreement that we signed, I can say, is the first agreement ever signed on the basis of the new methodology. This is the first case we are signing an agreement of this kind in Russia. And of course we are ready to work with other regions as well. So we're looking forward, and we hope we'll have an opportunity to talk about it. World Bank is paying a lot of attention to open data support, because for us this is the key element of economic development, modernization of governance, and improvement of the quality of services provided by the state. This also improves the public-private partnership and the dialogue between the government and the population. This is a very significant work for us, and we hope to work not only with Ulyanovsk but also with other Russian regions on this issue. As I have already mentioned, it is a very interesting project in Ulyanovsk. For me, it is particularly interesting. I was here about a year ago for the first time when we visited Ulyanovsk to study the opportunities of collaboration. So for me personally, it's a great pleasure to hold this seminar here in Ulyanovsk. And for us, it is very important that Ulyanovsk was ranked number 1 in terms of as a city good for business. In any case, we think that there are prerequisites for the success in Ulyanovsk, and we wish all the participants of this seminar every success, good luck, and a successful seminar. I want to say once again thank you to all of you for finding time and coming here, and we're looking forward to have a closer collaboration.
If it is possible for you, please speak English, because we expect international audience to watch this seminar, and we pay attention to this fact. But if you can't speak, please speak Russian. Of course, our colleagues will help with the translation. So, I would like to introduce Amparo Ballivian, the representative of the work group on open data for World Bank. Please, Amparo.
by making their list of addresses in Denmark, just the basic list of every address in Denmark, every house in Denmark, free. They got a return of €70 for every euro they'd invested in the project. Every year, on an ongoing basis. Because, if you think about it, data like addresses is used by all sorts of firms and all sorts of people in the economy. Similarly with weather data, all sorts of geospatial data, but also things like statutory registers, like company registers and cadastral registers. That data permeates, is used very widely in the economy. And we're seeing various business models of new businesses growing up using data. And these are some of the typical models we're seeing. We're seeing firms set up to take government data, clean it, correct errors, put in standardized coding, organize the data, and then sell it as business intelligence. So in the UK and in the US, a firm called Kaplan take data on what the government spends, what procurements the government makes, which are also now public in the federal level in Russia. And Kaplan take the data in the UK and the US, they put in consistent codings, and they sell it as business intelligence to the suppliers to government. And that makes the supply to government more competitive because there's more transparency about prices. And that actually makes the supply to government cheaper for government. It improves the demand. Second example is information services to the public, where the public don't always want to come to a government website to get information. Not all government websites are very good, and not all government websites can serve every need of every citizen. So information about transport, information about pensions, and so on, we are seeing being taken, and then other people providing information services. In New York City, there are 68 applications for information about the metro system. You would think one application would be enough, and yet there are 68 applications being built and are being used there, because different people have different needs. Another line of business is actually taking the vast amount of data that governments generate and analysing that to find new knowledge or new opportunities. So in the UK, we very recently opened the data about drugs prescribed in the National Health Service. That is anonymised data. It's not about which patient got which drugs, but just which drugs were issued in what quantity. And a firm called Mastodon-C, a new startup firm, which is a big data firm, has taken this data and analysed it against the latest medical knowledge, and found out that if all doctors were applying the latest medical knowledge, there will be a saving of 10 billion rubles to the UK National Health Service. That is a sort of lag of applying knowledge in the prescribing of drugs. So that is actually a commercial opportunity, but it's also an opportunity for economies and savings by the state to be able to put that money to more effective use. Data is being used to optimise business efficiency. So data about roads and congestion on roads is being taken by logistics firms for the routing of trucks. So why would you want your truck stuck in traffic when there is another route by which it could go to its destination more efficiently? And that's actually better for the environment as well. Similarly, in the UK, we've released data about roadworks, utilities and others with a right to dig up a road to deal with pipes underneath the road. Utilities underneath the road have to register that with the local municipality that they're going to do that work. And that data is now gathered by a firm called Elgin, who sell that information. They organise that information and they sell it to logistics firms. So again, they know where the road's going to be done up tomorrow or next week. And so trucks can be routed to avoid that congestion. The data is being used to improve financial products. So the insurance industry is taking very detailed weather data and very detailed topographical data and combining those together to get much more accurate assessment of flood risk. And so flood insurance is becoming more competitive and more geared to the actual risk faced by individual homeowners. There are businesses growing up just in data and getting data and helping organise that data and getting it from one another. So Data Publica in France is collecting together all the data it can find about France, both government data and non-government data, and providing a one-stop shop, one place in which businesses can go to find the data they need about France. And also in France, a company called Border Cloud are in the business of providing reliable hosting and serving of data. That when the government provides it, it can't always invest in the quality of IT services needed to make that data reliably available 24 hours a day. So for businesses that need reliable access to data and include, for instance, application programming interfaces, Border Cloud provide those services. And we're seeing all sorts of business innovation coming up as we released data. Nowhere more in the UK than in geospatial data. And since we made geospatial data low and medium resolution free, we're seeing a whole set of new businesses grow up using that geospatial data. And 80% of the government's data, but 80% of any organisation's data, you think, has a geospatial reference in it. Everything has to be somewhere. And knowing where that place is, being able to represent that on a map, and being able to relate things together by their geospatial location is absolutely crucial. And what's more, data is leading to more efficient government. In the UK, we thought the government was very good at sharing data from one agency to another. It's not actually very good at all. And in Greater Manchester, where there are 7 municipalities in the metropolitan area, they estimated there were savings, as he just does some mental arithmetic, 400 million rubles a year by opening up the data so that other agencies in that metropolitan area, other municipalities, sometimes agencies within the same area, could access that data. Data flows more. The second policy objective has been improving public services. Data is being used to improve public services and to engage citizens in helping government leaders improve those services. So that's data about schools. So parents can see the performance of the school that they're thinking of sending their child to, how that performance compares to other schools, and gives them a basis on which they can ask their children's teacher or their children's head teacher, why is your school not performing well? The government are giving your school this amount of money, why is that money not being spent on my child's education? The government have authorised this number of teachers. Why are this number of teachers not actually teaching in the school? Similarly, in hospitals, getting data about the performance of hospitals and clinics allows patients and their relatives to challenge doctors on why performance is not better. So, for instance, the screenshot here is of 3 hospitals near my own mother's home that my mother may need to go to, and this is the web page that shows their cleanliness. And as you can see, 2 of them have got very good cleanliness. This is as assessed by the official inspectors from the Ministry of Health who do this, who've done this for a number of years, but we've now started publishing that data so patients can see it. And one hospital has below standard performance. And this creates a pressure to improve on individual hospitals, on individual doctors, that transparency. Since we started publishing the results of the individual outcomes of individual operations by the 240 cardiac heart surgeons within the United Kingdom, the number of operative and post-operative deaths from heart surgery has gone down by 1,000 patients a year since we started publishing the data. Creates pressure to improve. And data is being published on crime and the police. What crimes in your area? What have the police done about it? Has anyone been arrested? Has anyone been brought to trial? Have they been convicted? What was the sentence? And police forces are using this actually to engage citizens in what we call in the United Kingdom neighbourhood policing. So this website has had 53 million visits in the first two years, and every visitor gets to see not only the crimes in their neighbourhood, but also the photograph and contact details for their neighbourhood policemen and how they can get involved, how that citizen can get involved in setting local policing priorities. So it's about getting citizen engagement in crime. It's also about getting citizens to help improve data. So not all government data is correct. In the UK we had data on the location of 300,000 bus stops. It turned out that 18,000 of them were incorrectly coded. A bus stop in the middle of a lake is probably not correct data. So there was a citizen effort to validate all this data and correct the 18,000 that were wrong. And we've used citizen source data. This is data collected over Twitter with the hashtag UKSnow and geospatial reference and how heavily you think it's snowing. And this is gathered from the Twitter stream, and this is you get things like a real-time map of a snowfront moving across the United Kingdom. This is an actual picture. And providing citizen front end to services, so reporting potholes and seeing what action the government, the responsible public agency have been taking to repair the road. When was it reported? What has been done about it? Have people who reported the problem confirmed that the problem has been solved? And the third objective is more transparency. So that's publishing data about what the government and each public agency spend. And this is a website that Lisa Chambers has been involved in called Where Does My Money Go? So of the amount of money the government goes, how is it split between different public services, and you can drill down and get that. And then, and this is, I can talk about a bit more about this later, open spending, the individual spending transactions of the government. What were they on? And this actually allows citizens to drill down and question individual transactions, and has created pressures on officials to think more carefully about what they spend. Since we started publishing the expenses of senior officials in the United Kingdom, the amount of expenses claimed by value has gone down by 40%. A very interesting statistic that, again, driven by transparency, when officials know that their performance can be scrutinised by the public, by the media, they're perhaps more careful in how they spend the citizens' money. In the UK, we've got published organisational charts, organisational data, actually data rather than just a chart, about every government department. So you can see for senior officials, where do they fit into the structure, what do they pay, what are their responsibilities, and what are their contact details. And the political objective here has been, everyone always blames the minister. But actually, if you make clear which official is responsible and how to contact them, then citizens can contact that official directly and press for more immediate action. Not everything has to flow through the minister. What contracts are being granted to who by governments? Are officials using energy economically? And so government departments in the UK publish every 30 minutes the amount of energy that they're using in their headquarters buildings in the last 30 minutes. And this application, which was actually built originally, devised originally by a 16-year-old schoolgirl, takes this data and just plots it over the last 24 hours. And the question is, when officials go home at night, do they turn off their computers and do they turn off their lights? Or are the lights burning all night and the computers on, expending energy, which has a cost to the government? And as you'll see here, yes, electricity consumption does go down at night, but not as much in some departments as in other departments. Interestingly, although the top graph here is the Ministry of Defence, and defence is 24 hours a day, the graph just below it is the Ministry of Finance. And I don't really think that the Ministry of Finance works 24 hours a day or need to have their lights on at night. And citizens groups, civil society, have built things like municipal accountability dashboards. This is a site called Openly Local, which gathers up various sorts of transparency data from different sources about a particular municipality and gives citizens a summary of that and allows them to compare it with other municipalities. How much is being spent, what performance of local services. And Open Data provides also a platform, a hub, for civil engagement. Actually, citizens often go searching for data about their community, about their local schools, about their local hospitals, about local crime rates. And that becomes an opportunity to get citizens more engaged in public affairs, both through community groups, in local papers, and by the government itself. And I gave the example there of the police using data and they over 25 million visitors a year to their website to actually engage with the public through their search. And this is the police side bringing it out. It's very local data. People are concerned about data in their communities, data that affects them. It's naming the policemen responsible for patrolling their community. It's giving news about their community. It's how citizens can get involved. So data is being used to attract people in, to inform them about their community, to engage them, and to get them to work with public officials to take action to improve their communities. Improving communities isn't just a job for government, it's a job for government working with the people in that community themselves. So in summary then, the three typical policy drivers for open data, why people are doing this. Governments are doing it for transparency. Governments across the world are having to be more transparent and respond to this pressure. Governments are using it to drive improvement in public services, services that matter to people, where governments, ministers can't teach every child themselves, ministers cannot perform every operation themselves, ministers cannot collect refuse from every house themselves. Ministers have then to delegate to public services, to public agencies, and ministers, elected officials, are using data to connect with citizens and get both a top-down and a bottom-up pressure for improvement of public services. And thirdly, governments are seeing open data as as a way of generating new economic growth and new social value, to set up new businesses of the future, and provide the framework for a thriving digital economy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what open data is about and what the benefits of open data can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. I'd like to introduce Juan Begtin, the head of Information Culture Russia, one of the key experts in open data. Please.
Greetings, my name is Begtin. Yes, I'll try to talk in English. I'm sorry, my English maybe not so ideal, but since we have an international event, I hope it's better. I'm going to talk about Russian experience in open data, and actually, even if we talk open data right now as a term, as a new topic actual for the world, but actually it's quite old story. And opening data started many years ago. And if we talk in Russia, for example, all of us know about currency exchanges that we see on any site, or banking-related information. Actually, this is open data provided by Bank of Russia many years ago, and it's provided still for many years. It's available for everybody. It's open data. It's available as data sets, available as API. So this is one of the examples of open data, and very actively use it all over Russia. This is one of examples. This is one of examples which most of the times out of our view, since we just know it's became infrastructure. So my first word about open data is infrastructure. First word is infrastructure, and from my opinion, open data right now in our world, it's not only gold. It's similar to the roads, it's similar to the buildings, it's similar to the lights on the streets and so on. It's infrastructure, and without it we can't build any information society, and we can't evolve in this direction. Next question is a culture. From my opinion, open data is a culture, and any activities in openness, it's not only idea that trust between people and government. It's only trust between people and corporations, people and not-for-profit organizations. It's culture, and revision of information is a cultural issue, and that's why right now when we talk about opening data, we have a great benefit that we lose many times, that we can't attract developers to create information infrastructure here in Russia, to create new applications, if they don't have any data to do it. If they don't have open data, for example, for Ulyanovsk Oblast, for any other region on federal level, we can't attract developers to create new innovative applications. That's why it's very important, and that's why for all of examples that we have related right to the attracting people to culture, to using open data. We have a great example in Russia. It's openness of government financial information, especially its procurement data. Nearly all Russian procurement data is available for everybody, for use. It's available as open data. There won't be limitations, not under open license like Creative Commons or Open Data Database Commons, since only Russian law is not adopted yet for those licenses, but at the same time it's available for everybody. I know about 10 companies that use it and provide commercial services to find procurement information quickly, to get information where, how to say it, different ways. It could be get from email, via SMS, any other ways, and to classify this information to different topics, to provide marketing information, and so on and so on. I have only 10 companies, but I know that we have much more of them. And there is another issue. We have a lot of examples of the use of government information. but it's a bit different from open data. I know lots of companies that use just government data provided on government websites, but we do it informally. They just scrape it from government websites and they use it. And running open data initiative is not only to attract new companies, it's also to provide companies that use this information useful interfaces, data sets, to easy to use and to find who's actually using it. Nearly every month I find somebody new who's using it, and before Russian procurement data was available, we used it also via screen scraping. So just one of the examples. They have a lot of information related to the addresses, Russian structure, and this information is provided as a very huge data set, and I know it's different from our countries. And this information is just very actively used, but right now we can't measure it from an economical view, but we can measure it from developers' view, from ecosystem view, since this information is used in nearly any program developed to verify address information, to verify clients by banks, to verify clients by any commercial operators, telecom operators, and so on. So this is one more example. And for sure, we have lots of information right now opened by Russian regions, and we don't have much best practices right here, since we are just started to provide information. At the same time, I think that this year we'll get many examples, and I'm personally run application contest apps for Russia, and after each of our contests we get about 3 dozens of applications that are actually useful and for any people. And there is another benefit. Yes, we educate developers, we try to use this information, and we create ecosystems. So my third word is ecosystem. Without it, we can create modern IT services. We cannot create people to help people to understand why it's all it's important. So I concentrate my ideas and best practices on 3 words. It's infrastructure, culture, and ecosystem. I think it's most important for us right now. I will say honestly, I think that it's mostly educational issue. Educational not only as higher education or any, but we need to explain to people why open data should be used, how it's different from any government data, from any other activities on openness, and how to use it actively. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is Tatyana Tolsteneva, founder of Information Freedom.
Esteemed colleagues, good afternoon. I represent here the Fund of Free Information, and our main goal is the search to find the most efficient ways to make. Татьяна, говорите несколько медленнее, поскольку идет синхронный перевод. Okay, I wanted to stress in the framework of this seminar dedicated to the regional aspects 3 theses, and one of them is open data as a new and fresh and unusual element of state openness is based on legislation on access to information. In the first stage or step, this is the legislation on the access to information, which will make the state data is open, and the second step is the open data itself. And speaking about the legislation, it is necessary to say that this legislation is a combination of responsibilities of federal power and regions they have the field of competency, and they could expand this openness locally and make it more flexible and more modern, meeting the everyday requirements of the regions. And if there is a problem of limitation, some state secrets or some specific regimes like protection of personal data, family life and privacy. At the level of region, we have a broad field where the region could express itself, and the region also has lots of authority, which makes and possesses the potential to make it more open even than the federal government. And the more open is the region, and so the further it could go. And another important thesis is the movement towards openness and transparency and accountability will become more effective if we have greater number of people. Of course, the government bodies, they are kind of a driver, but the participation of NGOs, the business and society makes this process richer, and attaining new partners and new colleagues, it becomes more efficient. Thus, basing on the freedom of information and accomplishing the clauses of this legislation, the regions, in partnership with different expert communities and professional communities and academic communities, they could develop their openness and freedom and become more progressive on this field. And here we have assembled here at the platform of the regional power, and some regions, they have already this initiative and they go along the road of more openness in their regions. And the open data is a new process for Russia. Although it existed before, it was existing as a fact, but they were not implemented. And now we become more and more aware of what's happening. We have prepared lots of bylaws and legislation, and we don't have to wait at the level of the region that the federals will adopt certain legislation. We have to launch the initiatives of ourselves.
Maybe they will be also used by your colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, we have some time for discussion before coffee break. Please, if you have some points of discussion, you can raise your hands, but we expect you to point out one or two main thoughts or maybe suggestions. Of course, we expect you to give the suggestions to the governor and to the government of the Ulyanovsk region in open data initiative in order to help us to build and sustain best-in-class open data initiative. So please raise your hands, and our experts, or maybe Vladimir or our guests, can answer you. Please. So, no questions. Yes.
May I ask Andrew Scott a question? My name is Valery. Are the technologies of opening data and software support for opening the data, are they themselves open, or these are the softwares that were developed and they are closed? They were developed on governmental money. So what can you say about this software and in Western countries, I mean?
Thank you. Thank you. The technologies used for open data portal software, there is both software that's commercially available, of which perhaps Socrata is the leading example, and there is there is software that is open source, that is openly available, and the leading examples of that are CCAN and a recent development, which is the Open Government platform, which was developed by the US government and the Indian government, but that also now is converging with CCAN. In the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, we had a policy anyway of using open source where it was better value for public money to use open source, and we selected CCAN as the engine for our open data portal. And in the UK, we worked with CCAN and funded some modest developments that were needed at that time in order to make CCAN suitable for UK government use, and contributed those back open source to the community. I think there are over 50 government or municipal portals that use CCAN now. It is definitely the market leader in that. It is free to download, and there is quite a wide community of users using that. And the Open Knowledge Foundation, who produce CCAN, can also give support to governments and municipalities who wish to deploy CCAN quickly. So, for instance, they have a service hosting CCAN, so you don't need to get your own servers. And then they support multiple languages, including Russian. And indeed, the project manager of CCAN speaks Russian as well. So I think one of the things I would say, though, is how important it is to have technology that allows the metadata to be open, so that, because an open data portal is not just about a website visualizing that data, it's providing the tools that people can use to get hold of the data and use it themselves. So it's about finding the data, it's about being able to search the data, it's being able to understand what the data is, and that metadata is data describing the data. I'm now involved in some work on how we can expand that metadata to meet international statistical standards for statistical work. Finally, though, I would say that most of, certainly my experience in delivering an open data project, most of the issues were not technological. We decided early on to use CCAN, and we did not have technological problems. Most of the problems were institutional, official resistance to releasing data, despite very strong political backing from the Prime Minister. Open data is not prime. Technology is used to make open data happen, but there's much more to a successful open data initiative than technology itself.
Thank you, Andrew. Amparo, Ballivian will add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that. Yes, thanks. I wanted to add that Andrew's answer is perfectly accurate. He refers to the software for the portals themselves, but you also have to think about the software that uses open data to produce many of the applications that he has shown in his presentation. And this software is also sometimes proprietary, but many times is free software. So in the example of the World Bank open data site, we had a worldwide competition for applications using that data, and all of these are free to use for anyone.
Jeff Kaplan, Senior Consultant for the World Bank, please.
Sorry, just to quickly add, since you asked about different technologies, in addition to software for open data platforms, there are lots of different tools that are used to with open data, things like search tools, tools to scrape data from websites, tools to pull data out of PDF files. Many of these tools are available as open source free software. There are certainly some tools that are also commercially available, The answer is often it's a mix, but almost always you can find free tools, free platforms, free applications to do the technical processing or technical work that you want to do. There's almost always an open source option. And for many of the applications using open data, as Amparo said, much of that is open source. Again, you'll often find both applications for download that you can pay for, but also a free version that someone has done similar. So whatever it is you're thinking about that you need, a tool or an application or a platform, there's often a choice, and you almost always will be able to find an open source option.
So thank you, Jeff, very much. So, and I would like to introduce Lucy Chambers. I know that maybe she's not prepared for such a speech, but I would like you to introduce your opinion according to the topic of discussion, and especially about the ideas that Andrew Stott announced a few minutes before.
So I'm here representing the Open Knowledge Foundation. I'll speak probably fully in a minute, but in terms of open source tools that the Open Knowledge Foundation is responsible for, it was one of the kind of founders and now custodians of. There are lots of other businesses which now have partnerships with us to run CCAN and make their own business of this data portal software, which we kind of kicked off and now handed over to other organisations to run. And the other project, which is probably worth mentioning, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later, which is also open source, and we've seen all manner of interesting uses of, is open spending. So I work on a project which initially was designed to allow anybody to upload and visualize budget and spending information. And I'll talk about it particularly in more detail of some of the uses that we've seen of that. But that is all open source, and some of the spin-offs that we've seen of it have been really, really interesting. Some of the adaptations and derivations that people have built in and shared back to our core code base. We never would have necessarily envisaged that people wanted that functionality, but us making that open source and into a tool that has been used both inside governments and outside governments by civil society has allowed all manner of adaptations that we, as a small team of about 3 people, couldn't necessarily have built ourselves. So I would be massively in favour of open source solutions wherever possible.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Before we interrupt for coffee break, I would like to introduce our colleagues who didn't speak before. Jennifer Shkabatsulu, the consultant for the World Bank. Catherine Kanter, she's sitting. Mikhail Bunchuk, the representative of the Moscow office of the World Bank. You know Juan Begtin. And Oleg Petrov, the chief of ICT of the World Bank Washington office. Amparo Ballivian, chair of Open Government Data Working Group World Bank. And Juan Sabater. So, dear colleagues, 2 announcements. Valentina, are you here? Please raise your hand. Yes, please stand up, please. During coffee break, you can ask Valentina for help in terms of translation when you want to ask some questions. for our foreign colleagues who, or if you can speak English, please. Yes, thank you very much. So yes, and the second announcement for Russian colleagues. I will speak in Russian. Sorry, colleagues. Коллеги, пожалуйста, если кто-то еще не отметил командировочное удостоверение, пожалуйста, вот Людмила перед вами это все оформлено. And according to our agenda, we will interrupt for coffee break. And during the second session, we will give the word to Jeff Kaplan, to Oleg Petrov, to Mikhail Budushuk. Thank you very much. So we have 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes, please.